Liar. I'm over this.
I never said I was in your closet.
So after Scream 3 finished up the trilogy in 2000, we would have to wait until 2011 for a new Scream movie. The franchise was supposed to end with 3, but both Wes Craven and the writer Kevin Williamson felt that the franchise needs to be revived with a modern angle to it and go back to the more sharp and self-aware tone the first 2 movies had. By the 2010s, horror was dominated by remakes, torture porn, and found footage. It was the perfect opportunity to comment on this new era of horror, like the original movie did with 90s slashers, and even 80s slashers for that matter. Dimension Films didn't just want one movie, they wanted to launch a new trilogy with a new cast, a young cast anchored by the legacy characters. The writers also saw a new cultural obsession, people wanting to be famous for nothing. So even though Scream 3 was a really good ending for Sidney's arc, it didn't really close the door on the franchise. Wes Craven would be back to direct his 4th Scream movie. Him being one of the masters of horror, Scream 4 would be a good opportunity for him to comment on this new era of horror. And he would do that in a quite sharp way. In Scream 4 we are presented to Jill, our new final girl, our new Sidney, and she is the niece of Sidney Prescott, played by Emma Roberts, who is the niece of Julia Roberts. And it's immediately a new endpoint. We get a new final girl that isn't Sidney Prescott in the Scream franchise. And that's immediately interesting, because by this point we had 3 movies with Sidney. And even though she's back in this movie, she's not really the focus. She is the main character. Ghostface is still after her, but in a different way. Jill Roberts is presented as the new final girl, the new Sidney, throughout the whole movie. And we as the audience are expected to welcome her as the new Sidney. But as you know, if you have seen this movie, she's not quite that, and I will be coming back to that later on in this video. Scream 4 as a movie overall works as a Scream movie. It definitely doesn't have the tonal issues 3 had. It's definitely more to the tone of the first 2 movies. It's not too satirical. Even though you can't have a Scream movie without satire, it wouldn't be a Scream movie without satire. But Scream 4 returns to a more well-balanced shift between the 2. And it's much more gory, at least in one kill scene. If you have seen this movie, you have seen the Olivia kill scene, and it's one of the more gory scenes in the whole franchise. And not only that, it's one of the best executed kill scenes in the whole franchise. The lead up to it, the suspense of it, the writing of it, the direction of it are all on point. Especially the aftermath of that whole kill scene. It gets pretty gory. And even before that, it is a kill that is kind of a show-off kill. Ghostface is really making a point when he kills Olivia. And what I mean by that is that Ghostface is in Olivia's house in the closet, and Jill and Kirby, they are in the other house right across. So they see Olivia getting killed through the window, and Ghostface is really flexing. And that kill is among the first kills in the movie, so it was a nice surprise when I saw it in the theater for the first time. And it actually is my first Scream movie that I saw in the theater. I didn't see 1, 2, 3 in the theater. I either rented them or I got them on VHS and rewatched them a lot of times. So I was excited that after over a decade we got Scream 4, with Kevin Williamson coming back and Wes Craven coming back, and of course the original trio. And we were also going back to Woodsboro. At that point, we have not been in Woodsboro for 2 movies, so that was an exciting aspect too. I was thinking a lot about who the killer could be, who in Woodsboro is the new Ghostface. The movie starts with a quite smart opening scene, even though it does become a bit too much. It's basically a scene within a scene within a scene. 3 opening kills, with the last one actually being part of Scream 4. It is smart, but it feels like it just plays out too long. And after that we basically get reintroduced to Woodsboro, the new characters, and the legacy trio of characters, one by one, and where they are after all these years, what their lives look like, and so on. And it shows us that Dewey and Gail are married and living in Woodsboro, while Sydney, she's coming to town to have her book tour, doing promotion for her book Out of Darkness, and she meets up with Gail there. We are also reintroduced to Dewey. He is now the sheriff in Woodsboro and handling the investigation of the new murder, and letting Sydney know and everyone else know that Ghostface is back. And that's basically how the movie starts, for real. But we also get introduced to new characters, to Kirby, to Jill, and basically the whole friend group. And I have to say that besides Kirby and Jill, at least Jill for most of the movie, these new characters, they are just copies of previous characters, just modern versions of them. You get the final girl, the friend, the boyfriend, the geek, and the horror expert. Well, there are several horror experts in this movie, so the characters kind of feel like hybrids. But they are functional for this movie, just not anywhere near the original versions of them. It just feels like they fill out a role for the story and not being actual characters with their own lives. Like the, for example, original movie did very well. And I'm not just comparing every Scream movie to the original, I just want something as good again, even though that's hard. And I don't want the same story, that's not what I mean. I just want something at the same level of execution. And I don't think that's impossible. But many of the new characters in Scream 4 are like placeholders. Plot devices that are just used to move the story forward without their own arcs. While in the original movie, even the side characters had their own goals and mini arcs. But what I do find very good in Scream 4 is that it has a very stable tone. It's definitely not like a comedy like 3, but it keeps the satire intact, even though the satire in 4 isn't as strong as in the others. I also do like that they bring social media fame into it, and that it has a big part in the movie's story and in the killer's motives. And scrolling on phones has become a big part of the teenager's life by the time Scream 4 released. And the prototype of the influencer had started to form. So there are very nice ideas in Scream 4, but they are not executed perfectly. When it comes to the movie's production, Kevin Williamson had a specific idea. He wanted Jill to be the first Ghostface to get away with it in 4. But the Weinsteins were against that because they wanted to see the box office results first. So they shot an ending that was more definitive and very closed. So if the movie didn't make any money or too little money, nothing would be left up in the air. And you can call that a little bit cynical by the Weinsteins. But ultimately the movie did underperform, being the first Scream movie that made under 100 million. And it's still the lowest grossing Scream movie of all time. We'll see if Scream 7 changes that, which I doubt. But Scream 4 is definitely not a bad movie, even though it may not have been financially a hit. None of the Scream movies are bad, and I hope Scream 7 keeps that tradition going. Scream 4 came in a good time, I think, even though maybe the audiences weren't up for it. It had gone over a decade when we last time saw these characters, and I for sure had missed them. And I was curious how a Scream movie would work in the 2010s. And for the most part, it didn't disappoint. A little bit too formulaic, but a good movie. And it did introduce us to Kirby, which is one of the best characters in the franchise. She is basically Randy 2.0, but female and quite interesting. At least her arc in this movie is interesting. And Jill Roberts, she could have been a great character. She is a good character for this movie. But her and Charlie's plan doesn't really hold up when you rewatch the movie. There are too many coincidences that have to be in place for their plan to work. And Charlie, he's probably one of the worst ghost faces in the franchise. Nothing against Rory Culkin, who is Macaulay Culkin's brother. His performance is good, it's just that the character isn't written that well. A quite weak and easily manipulated Ghostface. His and Kirby's relationship could have been explored more and been quite interesting, but the character just doesn't work here. He's neither just crazy like Stu or has his own motives, which makes him very uninteresting as a character. Also, I can't miss talking about the color grading of this movie. And the cinematography, the lighting in it. It has this visual look that looks like a soap opera. Everyone looks shiny, everyone looks perfectly lit. Waxy faces, with lots of texture and grain. And it's not the actors themselves, it's the style of cinematography. It looks way too polished, not as gritty as the older movies, which had naturalistic lighting and deep shadows. The movie overall just looks too warm and bright, following the style of 2010's horror movies a bit too much, and many fans have pointed this out. But overall, Scream 4 is a good entry in the Scream franchise. I'm giving Scream 4 a 6 out of 10. Up next will be Scream 5, and then finally Scream 7, which I'm very excited about. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Also, don't forget to smash the bell icon so that you don't miss any of my future videos. This has been Phantom Frame. Thank you so much for watching.
Even your friends.
My friends? What world are you living in? I don't need friends. I need fans.